the concept of imperialism may be, or the imperialism as such may be a fact or just an illusion, but having a sense of imperialism within Iran, within our country here, brings me to the, to the conclusion that we should be very careful if we are going to counter imperialism or colonialism. Iran is a Muslim country, and we have some 50 Muslim countries around the world. If you just look at the statistics, independent of the number of population, statistics related to development, economic or scientific ones, we will see that the production, economic or scientific production within the Islamic countries are almost negligible. Even if Turkey and Iran are among the first 15 or 16 countries as far as GDP is concerned, and within 30 countries if the scientific production is concerned. I am going to make a statement which is somehow provocational, that we, within the Muslim countries, do not understand what science, I mean modern science, means. We are using the term ilm almost in every Muslim country, or in addition to ilm, danish in Iran, trying to translate science as ilm or danish. But once we try to translate terms like scientist, it's very difficult for us to have it an equivalent to it. And I try to ask some of our colleagues within some Arab countries how they do translate the word scientist, not science. We have the term danishmand in Persian, which is not equivalent to scientist. And some of my Arab colleagues told me that they try to translate it as alim or ishtighal bil ilm, a man or woman who is doing science, but not a simple term for scientist. But look, alim in almost all Muslim countries means a man or woman who is engaged with theology, science of theology, not natural sciences, not modern science. I tried to pinpoint what do we as Iranian understand once we are going to use the term science. It could be knowledge, means written knowledge within books. Look at the textbooks we are using within our universities. Or science could mean theology. If you use the term alim in Iran, I claim that more than 90% of people will answer yes. Alim is a man who is sitting in seminaries in Qom or Mashhad, for example, not at the universities. I don't dare to consider myself as alim. I am a physicist, physictan, but not an alim, not a scientist. I am a scientist, but not an alim. If you try to understand what's the root of these semantic differences within the concept of science and alim, you will see that the prevailing concept of science in Iran and the Muslim countries, I claim, is the science of theology, without knowing it explicitly. So, third concept, which we usually understand under the name of science, is old natural sciences, not the modern one. I mean pre-Galilean or pre-Newtonian natural sciences, natural philosophy, like what is written by Avicenna, Biruni, Farabi, and all that. And the fourth concept of science is the modern science, which I am claiming we do not understand it even within our universities in Iran and none of the Muslim countries. I know that this is not a simple claim, and many are going to counter me that this is not right. Look at Iran. Iran is improving its scientific output, scientific production like a jet. I mean, if you think that Iran has produced, or the number of papers at least, in the last 18 years has been increasing by at least a factor of 20% per year, even though that we have produced more than 20,000 international papers in 2009, even though I'm claiming that we do not understand modern science even within our universities. I'm sure that you have seen the statistics in the last couple of years by different institutions ranking the universities. Almost none of the Muslim universities within Muslim countries is within the 500 or 300 universities, top ranking universities. We are making a trick within Iran, merging different universities with the hope that the number of papers or number of different parameters within scientometrics will allow us to be within the 500 universities. This is the main reason that the University of Tehran and the Medical University of Tehran merged 2 years ago. And we at Sharif University of Technology received a letter 1 or 2 years ago from the president of the Isfahan Technical University that we should merge together, make a just one technical university so that we will come within the top ranking university in the world. You see? And I'm claiming this being 30 years after the revolution in Iran, having been in many different universities in Iran. I know the students, I know the faculties. I know that Sharif University of Technology is one of the best, if it's the best in natural sciences, and even there at our department, I claim that we do not understand it. Now, once I am claiming that we are far from understanding this very complex social process called science, modern science, how are we going to counter scientific imperialism or colonialism? It's very simple-minded to think that we can counter it with a very nebulous concept of science without the technology and without being prepared, without being ready to understand what modern science and technology is, to counter it. This is the main obstacle I claim that none of the Muslim countries are ready to go over the 25% as a, I mean, if you take all the scientific parameters, and try to see if one of the Muslim countries out of 50 is ready to go over the 25%, you will see we are far from that. We are far from that. It's not enough to look at just one of the parameters or one of the disciplines or one of the technological achievements of a country. You have to take all that into account, and you will see that we are in none of the Muslim countries, and as a whole, we are not in a position to grasp or to understand the modern technology and science. I will stop here with the claim which I know that almost nobody here will accept it. I have tried to have argumentation with different peoples within and outside Iran, in Muslim countries and in the West, with the same statement and the same claim. I know how difficult it is to grasp, but I'm claiming it after living as a young man 15 years in Europe at different universities, and being in Iran for 30 years, knowing what we're doing at different universities, how the policies within Iran are, and having looked at all these statistics relevant to science and technology within the Muslim countries. So it's a bad situation for all of us, but we should take care that once we are going to counter imperialism or colonialism, you see, first we have to understand it. To make a critic about science and technology, modern science and technology, without knowing it, is something that I would say will at least bring us no achievement. Even if you go back to the first couple of hundreds after Hijrah, says 400 or 500 after Hijrah, in the golden ages of Islam, and at least try to see how our ancestors had done in science and technology, how they try to think, you see, to grasp what has the Indians done or the Greeks has done before, translated the texts, you see, the first 200 at least, and try to do the same at least, to come back to our golden ages, you see. Then I would say that we should finish all the critics about science and technology, and instead of that, try to understand it. As a physicist in Iran, I can tell you that physics is one of the disciplines that is most developed within Iran, and we are one of the 5 developing countries that has had more than 1,000 international scientific papers in the last year, you see. Even though I'm claiming that even in physics, although we have tried hard in the last 30 years to develop it within Iran, we are far from the international level. We are part of LHC. LHC is the Large Hadron Collider, the big scientific project in Europe, the biggest one, in fact, in the world. A project costs more than $10 billion just to find a particle that physicists have found within the calculations. It took us more than 20 years to convince our politicians that Iran should be part of such big projects, just to understand what they are doing, what this modern science is doing, you see. And this is one of my last statements here, that what we are doing within Iran in terms of scientific papers, so these 20,000 papers that I mentioned as one of the statistics showing how Iran is improving science, we are just in the phase of exercising, trying to learn how to write scientific papers. We have not started yet the phase of producing modern knowledge within Iran, and none of the Muslim countries. Look, Iran alone, and even if you take Turkey, these 2 countries produce more than all the 48 other Muslim countries as far as science is concerned. So you can have, if you didn't know that all the other Muslim countries produce less than these 2 countries altogether. And all the 15 Muslim countries produce less than South Korea. So please be very careful in claiming that we are going to counter colonialism. I'm very glad that we are going to India, back to India, to Delhi, and establishing an institution for Occidental studies. But India is different from Iran and different from other countries. India, the continent, and still has many difficulties. And maybe India has a scientific community, but I know from field studies in sociology that none of the developing countries, including all the Muslim countries, has yet created a scientific community. The study has been done in Iran. It took 3 to 4 years, and the outcome was that Iran may be on the verge of producing a scientific community in the modern sense, in the social scientist sense.